Next to Calgary, that city's decided to stop putting fluoride in its drinking water. City Council yesterday voted overwhelmingly in favor of removing the chemical after 20 years of using it. Brian Labby's following the story. He's live with us from Calgary. And Brian, why were they even looking at this at all?
Well, there was a group of aldermen, Heather, the majority of council actually, about 10 aldermen who really pushed to get this item back on the agenda. And as I'm sure you know, this has been a contentious issue here in Calgary for, more than a generation. It's been the subject of several votes here in Calgary. The most recent one was in 1989 when just a slim majority, 53% of Calgarians, voted to have fluoride added to the drinking water. But this latest group of aldermen, they really wanted to have the chemical removed from the water supply. They said, they're citing sources such as the Ontario government, the U.S. Centre for Disease Control and Prevention, the American Dental Association, saying that, fluoride should not be consumed by infants. They argue that, there are so many other sources where we can find fluoride, such as toothpaste and mouthwash, and they really felt that this all comes down to personal choice. The city can actually control how much fluoride is put into the water supply, but certainly they can't control how much an individual is consuming. Now, there were a couple of measures that they tried. They suggested throwing this to another vote here in Calgary. They actually wanted to send it to an expert panel at the University of Calgary, but those two measures failed. Some aldermen saying that would have been a cop-out, so they wanted to show some leadership, and in the end they voted 10-3 to remove the fluoride from the drinking water supply.
So not unanimous, but very strong, strongly in favor of doing away with the fluoride. It's been a few hours to sort of sink in then in Calgary. What kind of a reaction has the vote been getting?
Well, shortly after the vote, the city's medical officer of health expressed his disappointment. He's saying that this is really a step back in terms of promoting dental health. And Dr. Richard Musto is actually saying that he expects to see a rise in the number of cavities here in Calgary. The head of one of the local homeless shelters here in Calgary is concerned about the impact this is going to have on the city's less fortunate. Now, I should point out that the city, as part of their decision yesterday, they did want to push for, looking at ways to improve dental health among the city's poor. So that's one component of this. While they agreed to take it out of the water supply, they're saying, well, let's at least look at what the impact of that is going to be. And there's really no clear timetable as to when the fluoride will be removed. That's because the city has to apply to the province to actually change the water license. So it's unclear when the fluoride will be taken out.
Okay, Brian, thank you for this. Brian Labby live with us from Calgary.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Global Government News. Today is Thursday, February 10th, 2011, and I'm Darko. Welcome to part 3 of this news bulletin. We have a lot more news to get to in this video segment. You just saw the great news. I'm happy to bring that positive news, man, about the fluoride being removed from the water supply there in Canada. That's great news. As you know, of course, the federal government here in the United States has recommended to reduce the amount of fluoride added to the water by about 50%, which is good, but it'd be better if they just removed it entirely. So, without further ado, I'm going to start this article. I just like to ask any new listeners, to please visit my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. All right, so thanks for sticking with me, guys, in this third video. We have Martin Dixon launches new bid to restore order in Victoria's classroom. This is a crazy story. Teachers will seize back control of their classrooms from unruly students under a bid to restore discipline in Victorian schools. The new Baillieu Government will next week push for new laws allowing principals to search students' lockers and school bags for weapons and other dangerous items. And he said he wants to reverse the students' declining respect for authority, and he wants to put a stop to bad language, sloppy dress, and mobile phones in class. Well, mobile phones in class, obviously, but the problem is the young people, they don't like the indoctrination. That's what they're receiving. They're receiving indoctrination, basically to be good little slaves, to go to work their 9 to 5, pay their taxes, don't ask too many questions, and then die. And that's pretty much it. And don't forget to pay your death tax too. That is your purpose as a slave, and then as a student, you're going through that indoctrination, basically, and they're also re-educating you. So whatever you're being taught at home through the family is being deconstructed, and of course you're going to be having all sorts of stuff, including you got to love the state, you got to follow environmentalism / eugenics, and basically you have no privacy. Don't forget to snitch on everybody else, and serve a purpose that's higher than yourself. Okay, car hire company to track travelers with GPS device. Car hire company uses GPS tracking devices. Travelers can be tracked in real time. Renters can be fined for breaching agreement. Then we have Mansfield Arabic program on hold. A Mansfield ISD program to teach Arabic language and culture in schools is now on hold, and it may not happen at all. It says the school district wanted students at selected schools to take Arabic language and cultural classes as part of a federally funded grant. So there you go. British High Court expands domestic violence to include shouting, criticizing. And we have this. Texas bill says insure your dog or face misdemeanor charges. It says the bill introduced in Texas would require sporting dog owners to purchase liability insurance for many of their dogs. And we have this. District Pennsylvania teacher called students lazy whiners. School officials in Pennsylvania say the high school English teacher posted profanity-laced rants online that labeled her students out of control and disengaged and lazy whiners. So it does that right there, the disengaged. Well, they're disengaged because they're being brainwashed. Unfortunately, they don't really have a say in the matter. They're being forced to go. And then they're being forced to take their vaccinations, which we'll get to here shortly. Charlottetown latest to target excessive stop signs, and this is good news for those who are limited government or no government. This is a good sign, no pun intended. After years of caving in to the pleas of residents asking for stop signs to stem the flow of speeding cars, Charlottetown is preparing to tear up more than a dozen residential stop signs that the city has deemed unnecessary and even harmful. So defense leaders, and those traffic cameras that they have are also harmful because a lot of people, including myself, I see slamming on our brakes in order to not go through those yellow lights so we don't get a ticket, right? And you end up causing crashes. But you think they're going to take those down? Oh, hell no. Hell no. Those are live video feeds, man. Every time you're going through those, you're going through a checkpoint. So just know that. Just like your little toll booths on the tollway. They're little checkpoints, but they like to call them toll plazas. French judges revolt, shut down courthouses. More good news. Protests follow Sarkozy's claim of judiciary incompetence over freeing of murder suspect. The teenage waitress disappeared one night after a shift after a police hunt that gripped France. Her severed limbs and head were found in the waters of an abandoned quarry. And so it's setting off a bunch of protests with judges. Montana wants to create a bill that would create armed state militias, and it says a Montana Republican has introduced a bill that would create a volunteer armed militia called Home Guard that would answer directly to the governor or local sheriffs. Wow, dude, local sheriffs. You don't hear that often, do you? And bill wants U.S. to withdraw from UN, a bill that calls Montana to ask Congress to withdraw the United States from being a part of the United Nations, is heard in the Senate Judiciary Committee this morning. I got to say, Montana is looking like a good state to move to, guys. They have real low unemployment, and they seem to be passing laws every couple months that are basically allowing people more freedom. It's not really freedom, it's liberty, because they're just granting you freedoms that you should have inherently. But either way, that seems to be the area that seems to be the freest place in the United States, if I could even say that. But there's even a bill that I talked about recently where it was going to require citizens to own a firearm. So, I mean, lots of bad stuff going on, but also lots of good stuff, I guess you can say. Are MMR vaccines dangerous for children? Dr. Suzanne Humphreys urges parents to get informed. This is from February 2nd. Just thought I'd put it up there. I'll post a link. Vaccine likely cause child narcolepsy. Keep moving here. UN warns of rapid population growth. What's the solution? WHO reviews safety of H1N1 flu vaccine. The World Health Organization is reviewing the safety of the Pandemrix H1N1 flu vaccine. At the report linked the shots with a higher risk of narcolepsy in children. Well, I guess we're going to have to, I guess that's, a good way to solve the overpopulation. Dude, I've heard Bill Gates say this in 2 different interviews now where he says that we need to curb the population and then says vaccinations are a good way to do that. And somehow the people that are interviewing him or the people in the audience either get it and the first one, they were laughing when he said that, and then the second one, the person who was interviewing him, an Indian individual, I believe, was just kind of looking at him like, I could tell. He's like, what in the hell is the matter with you, man? You know? But hey, these are the sane people. These are the experts. So H1N1 flu vaccine, very effective, says study. A single dose of the H1N1 swine flu vaccine was 93% effective during the 2009 pandemic, a new study found. So I guess the benefits outweigh the risk. Here we go. We're going to keep moving. Baillieu will conduct further trials of HIV vaccine after early test failure. And then we'll move to this. HIV takes tough toll on Black Americans. And, you know, you never know. But it looks like this thing was created in a lab. And it was a bioweapon. And it could have been race specific. So says here, British scientists claim flu vaccine breakthrough. So, of course, you know, like I was saying, if they created HIV in a lab, obviously they're going to come up with a what? HIV vaccine. So British scientists claim flu vaccine breakthrough. Scientists in Britain have successfully tested a vaccine which could work against all known flu strains. The Guardian newspaper reported on Monday, same thing. Promise a vaccine to kill all strains. And then we go here, universal flu vaccine spans for life. Oxford University students have successfully developed a new vaccine that provides once-in-a-lifetime immunity against all known flu strains. And what does that mean? A once-in-a-lifetime immunity. It means that you're going to get a big whopping vaccine full of just nothing but eugenics. So good luck if you take that thing. Baillieu, you know, we already covered this. We're going to keep moving here. One more girl unveils truth behind HPV vaccine travesty. It says here, Ryan Richardson and brother David announced the debut of a special preview of their new documentary, One More Girl, and it documents HPV vaccines and talking about all the horrible problems that they've had with them. And it says here, and of course they try to make it mandatory to go to school, right? Down in Texas, adults may not be spreading whooping cough, says study, and it says that these vaccination campaigns targeting teens, adults may be a waste of time. But we're going to keep going here. Parents who don't vaccinate children make us sick, says Amity Shays. So you can go through there and check that out. And she's a nice little eugenicist, isn't she? Doing a good job for the Aryan race, woman. New superbugs resist most powerful antibiotics, and that's because everybody's gets all their antibiotics in the food and in the milk. And then they go to the doctor and they get them. Just bodies flooded with antibiotics, so they're not even immune anymore. Kids rising obesity rates due to bad habits, not genes. And then we look here, strokes are rising fast among young and the middle age. And bear with me, guys, because this is going to be some crazy news here. Glaxo adds safety restrictions to Avandia because it's linked to heart attacks. Government offers cash prizes to doctors who recruit new mental illness patients. And then look at this story right here. Study, 25% of antidepressants prescribed for no legitimate reason. Infant death rate falls after drug companies stop selling cough medicines for children under 2. That's right. Pesticides inhibit proper childhood development. CF light bulbs is a serious health hazard to women and children due to mercury content. And of course, they're trying to push that and what? Make them mandatory to save the environment. Remember, environmentalism equals eugenics. EPA administrator claims regulating drinking water supply prevents kids from getting autism. Chemicals in soap can harm children. Popular infant juices loaded with toxic fluoride. Again, all of this is targeting children. They are the future. Older people, I hate to say it, but we're pretty much gone. We're not much of a threat. It's the younger generation. That's why they are under attack all the time, constantly, from the day they're born. That's why I say you are lucky if you make it to 10 years old. You really are if you make it past the eugenics. Formula-fed babies, 600% more likely to be obese. American waistlines expand at fastest pace among rich nations, study says. And how does it feel to be rich, guys? I don't know. It's pretty nice. Global obesity doubled in 3 decades. Then we have this, how tiny Nauru became the world's fattest nation. Obesity has nearly doubled worldwide since 1980. Junk food linked to lower IQ. Then we have mainstream media admits diabetes can be reversed through major diet and lifestyle changes. This is GGN and I'm Darko.